One, Lewis Pope. We are live. How you doing, sir?
Howdy, Stetson. Doing good. Pleasure to be with you again.
Yeah, you as well. And hello to folks that are joining in. This is I called it the security sync. I don't know if we have an official name for these calls, but purpose of this is to just get together with Lewis Pope, who is head nerd at Enable, and chat about the recent news in cybersecurity that's been going around. Maybe some folks came in from my QR code. We'll see. I had kind of a little bit of a troll there. But Lewis, why don't you give us a quick intro and then we'll get right into the news we've prepped for this week.
All right. Well, for anybody joining us for the first time on one of these security sync sessions, I'm Lewis Pope, one of the head nerds at Enable. I come from the MSP space. I was with an MSP for about 6 years before I came over to the vendor side of the MSP channel. But I'm very much focused on practical implementation of security controls, best practices, the dirty work of security, the things that usually have to get done, but nobody's really grateful that it gets done, kind of stuff.
All right, security janitor, I'll say. Hello to Zach. If you guys are viewing live, drop some comments. We'll field your questions live and say hello. Anyway, if you don't know me, my name is Stetson Blake, founder of This Is an IT Support Group. I like to post memes and troll a little bit and have these chats. So let's get right to it. I have a slide. Everybody loves slides. Now, these ones will be exciting. We're going to make this content really engaging. First thing you sent me, Lewis, is something called paste jacking. It says compromised and malicious websites used to serve up social engineering attack. What is paste jacking all about?
All right. So paste jacking is something that's not a brand new, nobody's ever tried this before, but it is it's making the rounds again tactic. What this is where somebody is either they own a website, they've compromised a website, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a drive-by ads, whatever it may be. But the end user simply gets a pop-up that says hit Windows key R. So, open up your run command dialog box and then paste into it. And what's happening is that whoever this actor has set up the website to automatically inject commands into your clipboard. So whenever the end user pastes, they are pasting into their run dialog box a PowerShell script or something else that is going to, completely bypass most of your security controls and immediately execute whatever it is that this poor end user was, unlucky enough to be asked to do when they willingly did it.
Yeah. Lewis, real quick, few questions about this. I think maybe some people's initial reaction is like, wow, who is so dumb that they would do this? But my guess is probably the folks that are vulnerable to this type of attack are not security minded, maybe not IT pros. Maybe
they don't know
users.
how a computer works.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge when there is a time in your life whenever you're an IT professional, security professional, just a help desk technician.
Sure.
There's a point in your journey where it's like people can't, computers are easy. It can't be it's not that complicated. People can't be this dumb.
Yeah.
But the thing is you kind of lose vision of, computers are kind of complicated, even though it's easy to us, to the average end user. It is a mysterious, magical black box, and they know nothing about how it really works.
And I'm sure there's a degree of persuasion involved too for some of these types of attacks, right?
Exactly. And there's coercion, there's convincing, there's platitudes. There is, everything being brought to bear to convince that end user that it's a good idea for them to take this action. So this could be chained to a part of an authentication process, a captured web portal that's saying, hey, we need you to do this to authenticate or prove you're not a robot. That's a common delivery for this one is you'll be on a website, you'll be somewhere, and all of a sudden it'll challenge you. Prove you're not a robot. Take this action. And people have already been trained to choose the pictures, type the letters, This is just for them. It's just a new way of proving that you're not a robot. Please let me
Gotcha.
get to the other side of whatever this is.
Lewis, one thing I'd like to do, I found a link. Maybe we can just go through this live. It's obviously some random blog, but I wanted to find a more kind of concrete example for maybe folks that hadn't heard of this type of attack before. I think it's not new. I think it's not a new thing, but I found this. I just searched, clickjacking. In the case of this blog post, they're showing looks like some HTML copy the non-malicious code below. It says not malicious. Using some JavaScript to set your clipboard data. So as you click that JavaScript, it would, copy that malicious,
Right.
In this case, it's just a string, but I'm sure in reality, it's something that causes a program to
Yep. And
do
they
nefarious things.
Yeah, and they can call that as a on click, on hover. That can automatically happen just by the website loading. So it's another one of those. The end user interaction is limited simply to did their browser take them to the booby trapped webpage.
Yeah, interesting. And what applications are vulnerable to this? I mean, I think you mentioned a few, but you'd paste into what, like your RMM or some SaaS product, or
no, anything, just command line on the computer. So
gotcha.
It will be typically it's used as an initial compromise, an initial foothold action of either gaining persistence to the endpoint, having you could even have this if the security is poor enough in the environment and the end user is an admin user. The command that they could be copy pasting and running could be as simple as download AnyDesk, run it. Here's the session code. Okay, I'm the actor and I now have remote access to that computer through AnyDesk. Or take your pick of almost anything you could possibly do. You are telling the end user, run this script on your computer for me, please.
Yeah, awesome. So paste jacking, very bad. We don't want it to happen. If people are IT pros or working in a security organization, how do you prevent this? How do you prevent, aside from education of your users, if check the links and stuff
education of the users, one of the biggest thing here, proper permissions, role-based access controls, make sure your users, user accounts are not admin accounts, they're standard user accounts, without over permissive permissions. All the best practices are really the first line of defense here. And then the more advanced is make sure whatever you have for your endpoint security solution or your SIEM or even local PowerShell logging on the devices is enabled. So you are monitoring for scripted commands that are being run on endpoints and some type of detection methodology to catch those potentially. Whether that's, again, your EDR, your SIEM, your XDR, your MDR. You need something in your stack that's looking at these types of scenarios where somebody is simply pasting a PowerShell command in, whether it's a gullible end user or a threat actor that legitimately already has access to the environment.
Right on. I dropped a few links if folks are interested in learning more about paste jacking, as well as this GitHub link. It's allegedly a proof of concept. Go at your own risk, right? Check what that does. But I saw this other interesting one for OneDrive paste jacking, which
that gets into all kinds of fun stuff too whenever you start involving other services, because they're preying on you have credentials for this SharePoint. Those credentials are probably already cached in your Windows credentials on your device. You already have, there's already information present on your computer that we can leverage to further access or compromise your SharePoint through this clickjacking or paste jacking. So simple, very, very simple attack, but the ability to be clever with it is unlimited.
Oh, I'm on mute. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, sounds good. and probably with the rise of AI as well, you can generate, maybe vibe code a paste jack or a proof of concept or persuasive copy to get people to click. So definitely avoid this. I think let's move on to the next one. Lewis, we have Silk Typhoon targeting IT supply chain. Also, I'll mention we have 18 folks live here. If you have comments, go ahead, drop them in the chat. We'll try and answer them if it's a question or just a goofy little thing. Like that's a nice data center that I'm in. Lewis, tell us about Silk Typhoon and what's going on. We've heard about these guys before.
Yeah, so this is just another one of the named PRC sponsored groups, People's Republic of China. And their current, they have been a concern, but now they are getting a little bit more, I'm going to say in the news, but the alarms are being rung, awareness is being raised that their targeting of IT supply chains is becoming more focused. Because, MSPs, IT professionals, and the tools that we use, they are the gateways to controlling an entire environment. So they're very attractive. So Silk Typhoon has been, looking to supply chain attacks, whether that is credential compromises that allow them to gain access legitimately to platforms or to SaaSes or to clouds. But then there's also some more focused, there's brute force attacks, there's credential attacks. There are, they are very good at covering their tracks as well. Big difference between an APT group, an advanced persistent threat group like Silk Typhoon, and your average ransomware operator is the ransomware operator doesn't care if you figure out how they did it or that you were there. They've dropped their payload, they're out. They don't care about being messy. Silk Typhoon, though, no, they're a little bit more refined. They cover their tracks better. They try to generate less noise. They try to stay persistent but invisible. And that makes these types of threat actors a bigger challenge because they are not making as much noise in your environments. And this is also part of, there was another alert notification that went out a few days ago about the Medusa ransomware. And this is in that same realm of IT supply chain attacks where weak credentials, stolen credentials, and other things are being leveraged to attack, the tool sets that MSPs and IT professionals use. And if you are not subscribed to here, like the CISA alerts, if you're not subscribed to these, I highly recommend it because they include, practical information and guidance about if you're legitimately worried about this. Well, here are some of the indicators of compromise. Here are the things that you should be looking for in your environments, things that you should be using your RMM or your SIM or your MDR solution to look to see, have any of my devices made any of these DNS queries? Have any of my devices, have any of these bring your own compromised, bring your own vulnerable drivers or will be listed in here. So are any of these drivers showing up in my environments where I'm not using those tools and those solutions for those drivers?
Yeah.
It's a lot, but it tells you what you need to go look for.
Yeah, awesome. I do want to highlight just a few items for folks that might not be familiar with CISA. Of course, they are the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and are actually a U.S. Department of Homeland Security agency. So I'd say know what they're doing and put out a lot of these bulletins pretty often. So Lewis, this will be a good place for folks, like you said, to subscribe and see how to mitigate against some of these common attacks.
Right. And these also, if you're not on the technical side, you're on the sales or business development side of things, it's still worth subscribing to these things and know about it, because if you're not talking about it to your clients, somebody else is who they are listening to.
Yeah, for sure. Stay technical no matter who you are, I guess, is the advice.
Exactly. You may not use the technical language or jargon when you're talking to your clients and prospects, but you need to know what's happening. You need to know about what's happening. You need to know and understand what your MSP or your consultancy services provide and how it aligns to this. Because again, if you're not talking about it, then your clients are listening to someone else about it.
Yeah, right on. So CISA, subscribe, check them out. I do want to highlight just again, Lewis, I'm a little bit tired. I looked at this, and Silk Typhoon, as you mentioned, not the same as Salt Typhoon.
Right.
And you highlighted a little bit. They're, better hackers, or
they have different motivators. They have different, their marching orders and why they exist is slightly different. One group is more towards espionage and collection of industrial secrets, while the other is staging and intelligence gathering for future operations. So, what are your motivators? Are you there to, if you're a North Korean APT group, you're probably slightly more motivated towards financial gains, to gain money, bring more money in, because, well, that's what you're told to do. We need more money, go get us more money. Whereas where, a Chinese APT group, or, basically any nation state APT group doesn't have that monetary motivation, they're going to be more about long-term collection of intelligence, espionage, pre-staging, gaining access to things, and staying quiet about the fact they have access to things.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that background. And I was struggling for a minute. I was trying to Google Silk Typhoon. I couldn't find anything. And it looks like the Wikipedia is actually called Hafnium, although their Silk Typhoon is referred. That's the name Microsoft uses. And just to make sure we're speaking to everybody at the same level, as we talk about these advanced persistent threats, I think Wikipedia definition is a stealthy threat actor, typically state or state-sponsored. They gain unauthorized access to networks and remain undetected for extended period of time. I believe they're usually pretty well funded and pretty smart or good at what they do. Is that right?
Yeah. These are, there's always, are we talking about hackers? Are we talking about script kiddies? Are we talking about people that are just, they learned a specific tool set and they're leveraging that for malicious ends? They are very much in the category of, no, they are legitimate hackers with resources, with development dollars and budgets to go out and buy 0 days, to find, go pay off security researchers to say, hey, don't report that, give it to us instead. So it is a different caliber of threat actor you're facing whenever you actually legitimately come up against an APT group.
Yeah, awesome. And I love Wikipedia so much, just for like falling down a hole and reading and clicking each link. Of course, they talk a little bit about Stuxnet. If you're not familiar with Stuxnet, maybe throw that into YouTube and learn about that incident. We won't talk about it today, but
industrial control sabotage.
Yes, ICS.
Yep. It's the scary, that's how fast stuff can get screwed up.
Yeah, this is like the Netflix movie level. Everything's broken. Everybody dies. Yeah. That might be reality. So that's why this stuff is important. Lewis, I want to take a moment to screen some questions. Zakaria says, I find the most annoying attack to deal with is the drive-by download. As soon as you scroll or even touch anywhere on a compromised website, it triggers a download. How can we defend against those types of attacks?
Defend and detect those. So that is going to be not a single point solution there. It starts out all the way at the bottom of, make sure it is a currently supported version of browser that your end users are using, that you have measures in place to monitor and patch and update their browsers. It starts there because, well, one web page drive-by attack might affect Firefox, but it might not affect Chromium. So you need to have, that's one part of it. Make sure they're updated. Then it's, you need content filtering or DNS filtering of some sort. I prefer DNS filtering myself over content filtering, usually because, endpoint-based content filtering solutions, typically there's a performance hit. There's a need for it to download a database of good and bad sites and everything. versus a DNS filtering solution. You're offloading it from the endpoint and leveraging a DNS service to determine whether a website or a link or a URL is bad, malicious, associated with known, C2 command and control servers or things like that. And extensions is another part of that, making
Very
sure that
dangerous.
extensions, you're monitoring those, which ones they're in their environments, because there are some drive-bound, there are vulnerabilities and drive-bys out there that take advantage of unsecurely developed extensions and browsers. And then, well, you have to allow for everything preventative we do is going to fail one day, somehow, some shape. So we can't rely just on those preventative actions. We also have the detection actions, and that's in your an IDS IPS solution and whatever your actual endpoint security solution is.
Right on. And
that is a really esoteric, big, broad description of what you should do. But those are all the little individual components you have to bring together into something cohesive to have your best chances at preventing and detecting things like that.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot there, Lewis. Can we get in like one sentence? There's IDS, IPS.
Yeah, well, you have to go with what's the risk profile of the client, how much money do they want to spend.
Sure.
Work from there.
Okay. Thank you, Zakaria, for the question. I'm just kind of browsing the web in the background. If folks think that, Google Chrome or other extensions aren't still a problem, they totally are. This is dated from February 13th from GitLab, a threat intelligence saying that malicious browser extensions impacted at least 3.2 million users. I don't know how they work, how they do some of these things. We'll drop a link to this guy if folks want to check it out.
Really interesting one here. I can go buy an extension that already has a couple of 100,000 installs for like $20. And then I own it and I can modify it maliciously.
Yeah. And I don't want to make this a how to do crime, discussion, but I'm sure you can easily look at extensions and say, hey, bulk URL opener extension, you could find whoever owns this. In a lot of cases, it's a solo single dev or a small team of people. And I'm sure they'd accept some amount of money to, this person's in Fonishka. I don't know. I'm sure you could make an offer.
And especially with the rise of vibe coding.
Yes.
There's, take advantage of other people's persuasive marketing skills to create a pre-installed consumer base for you that you can maliciously, attack.
Yeah, we should talk about vibe coding maybe at the end here, but I do want to burn through the links and things we have here, as well as comment from Heike Rabane. Hello from Estonia. I'm new to IT, just learning and in school. Recently found that cyber is something that I'm interested in. I like that you share those links. Thanks for the comment. Andrew popped in earlier, said, what's up, y'all? Money rules, huh? They commenting on APTs earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's, Lewis, you have another link for me. I am prepping it now. It looks pretty interesting. This is FBI public service announcement on snail mail extortion scam. This is dated March 6th, 2025 by the FBI. What is this all about?
Oh, so this is, I am very big about there are business threats that are not technical threats, but still is probably going to fall into your purview as an MSP or an IT consultant. This is clearly one of those. There's somebody, I believe it was from Boston, Massachusetts or somewhere for the originating, sending of it. But somebody sent letters to a bunch of businesses saying, hi, we're BeyondLawn ransomware group or APT group. We've stole your data. Give us money. Here's a QR code. Please go, to here and give us money. This is a really, really low tech, no tech attack. They are literally, they've got a Bitcoin wallet set up somewhere. They put a QR code link on a piece of paper to that Bitcoin wallet, send it out to a bunch of businesses, and basically just faked the whole thing of, we have your data, pay us money or we'll release it.
Gotcha. So, Lewis, in this case, this is somebody who's totally not a advanced persistent threat, a group with resources and talent and et cetera, just kind of pretending to be and maybe piggybacking off their credibility. Is that right?
This is one of those. I would not be surprised that this doesn't end up being like a 15 or 16-year-old that did it.
Wow.
Now, equally, there's nothing saying it couldn't have been somebody else. It couldn't have been, an organized group or something else. But just the sophistication of it is so low. It's, I don't want to say amateurish, but it's just like it is a minimum a lot of times, you hear about minimum viable products, minimum viable solutions. This was the minimum viable solution to get somebody to send you Bitcoins through a threat that you can't back up in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. I wonder if they've identified if anybody's paid.
They probably know. I haven't heard anything yet, but I imagine whoever owns that Bitcoin, if they were a more unsophisticated individual, they probably already know who they are.
All right. Right on. So ignore scary letters in the mail. Maybe contact police, FBI, whoever it is.
And this is a really good, this is messaging. You absolutely positively should have if you're an MSP or a consultant, you should have a messaging campaign built around this, just as a reminder to your clients that, you know what, I don't just deal with the computer stuff. I'm helping you with these other things as well, because if you're not talking about it, they're listening to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got another one to move on to. I'll again do a plug. If you are joining us live, please drop some comments if you have any questions about security stuff or just comments in general. We'd love to hear them. Next one is CISA, Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog. KEV added 5 new vulnerabilities this month, and they've been detected being exploited. What are they, and what is this about?
Yep. So if you're not familiar with the Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog, this is something maintained by CISA, and they will add vulnerabilities here as they become aware that they are being exploited. And once they list it here, if you're a subject federal agency, you're now on a timetable. There is a directive that you have to now address this vulnerability by this date. And it's not so much for, anything special about these particular vulnerabilities that were added this month. It's the fact that the age of the vulnerabilities that were added. One of the vulnerabilities that was added this month was from 2018.
I saw that. And, not this one. Right here.
Yeah. So this is a situation where some poor soul out there was responsible for taking care of an environment, and they were compromised because of a vulnerability that's been around since 2018 with a fix since 2018.
So let me make sure I got this right. The vulnerability from 2018, it's just now on this list because now it's known or showed up that it's been used in the real world and is being exploited. Is that what we're saying here?
Right.
Okay. Wow.
So now this vulnerability may have been being used by somebody very quietly somewhere over the past couple of years, and it didn't get picked up on the radar. But once it makes it into the KEV, it's like, yep, no, that it is part of an active campaign. It's being used. It is hitting, it's either hitting critical infrastructure. It's hitting federal agencies. It's hitting something of note is suffering from this, and we now need to tell everybody to deal with it. But it is the fact that, this is 6 years old vulnerability. You do not want to be the person that has to tell the board, the president, your manager, the owner of a business that, there's a vulnerability in your environment for 6 whole years that we never got around to fixing. And that's why you're now shut down.
That's an embarrassing conversation. I would agree.
Right.
And so, Lewis, this Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog, or KEV. I've got it up here. I'm curious. I guess it has, maybe I should just RTFM. It says how to use, but I see that they have these different outputs like CSVs and JSON. Is this, something you should grab your morning coffee and like scroll through these, or what's the best way to, use this catalog, I guess?
So if you have something like, an Elastic Stack setup, you've got an MDR setup, you've got a vulnerability tool. Using this, like if you've got the chops for it, automate this once a day, check it for changes, and go see if they exist in your environment somewhere, or if like the version of the application that the vulnerability is associated with it, does that version of the application exist in your environment or not? Go address it.
Sure.
Or go check on it.
I guess a lot of these would be pretty obvious if you're scrolling through, like, oh, Edimex. I have no idea what that is. We don't use that. But maybe, Fortinet jumps out because you're using that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I definitely take the time. I'm subscribed to it, so I get the CISA alerts in my mailbox, whatever. And I'll just take the time to, all right, let me look at what was added. Is it in my portfolio of services? Is it in my vendor my list of vendors I use? And that's okay. But at some point, operationalizing this and scaling it, it needs to be something where you're pulling this automatically and automating the checking for yourself in some way.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I think you're totally right. I could see, somebody hooking this up to Microsoft Teams or Slack or Discord or Signal, whatever it may be, pull this list and you could get, daily pings, just do a check of like, hey, what's new there? I was getting a bit distracted because I found this one called Changed Files GitHub Action that I guess has embedded malicious code. And then I found they put a security alert in. I don't know the full detail of what happened on this one, but certainly maybe a warning for some folks using open source libraries.
Oh yeah. There is wonderful things about open source. It's free. Horrible thing about open source: nobody's getting paid to check security on open source.
Yes. Yeah. Lewis, I want to take a little bit of a sidestep here. And also plug, if you are joining live, give us some comments, ask questions. But Lewis, I was curious, did you see, I think it was Harvard Business School put out a value of open source software like paper. Are you familiar with that? Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
If you've ever seen the XKCD cartoon, sure. Everything's piled on top as a bunch of building blocks, and there's this one little tiny one at the bottom of project supported by an unpaid person in Nebraska.
Yes.
And everything else is dependent upon that open source piece of exactly
right here.
Yep.
How true.
That's what it all is. And once you understand this, and it's very scary, but it also, okay, let me get over the scariness of the fact that, so much of our infrastructure and so many of the services, so many businesses are built on somebody's, pet project that got too big 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, just a side project, and then it completely blows up. So definitely a double-edged sword. But I was looking for the specific quotes on this link here, which looks very boring. I'll just throw out a few and we'll move on here. But allegedly, the research says that $4.15 billion invested in open source generates $8.8 trillion of value for companies. AKA a dollar invested in open source can mean up to $2,000 of value created. Again, with this caveat of check your stuff, be secure, make sure you're not pulling in some random Nebraskans stuff. And then the other quote was that companies would need to spend 3.5 times more on software than they currently do if OSS did not exist. So pretty interesting. I'll drop a link to that as well. Folks are interested in the chat here. And then Andrew says he loves that meme mainly because I'm in Nebraska. For sure, know some network admins that host some of the most random important things in their home labs.
Oh yeah, there is so much of the world order that depends on unpaid nerds. It really does.
It's a double-edged sword. It's awesome that anybody can go do that, but also kind of scary. Maybe you have to mitigate things a little bit. Lewis, let's keep going. You sent me a link to a new Kali Linux release, 2025.1a dropped this week. You should update if you've pulled 2025.1 earlier. Has Raspberry Pi 5 support and car hacking. Whoa. If you want to learn offensive hacking at the same time, it's a good time to start with Kali. What's up? Do you have this installed? What's going on with Kali lately?
Yep. So I've got a couple of boxes with Kali, some pin boxes, some drop boxes that I've used. Some
and I guess
pots.
What is Kali for if folks aren't familiar? I think
Kali is simply another Linux distribution, but it is built for offensive security. There are hacking tools in it. There's legitimate. It is a legitimate platform. There's a lot you can do with it. There's a lot of good things you can do with it. There's a lot of bad things you can do with it. But it is if you are, I know somebody said they just started on cybersecurity, education wise. Kali is a good way to start learning the offensive side of cybersecurity so that you can be a better defender. Just like there's some, there's common wisdom that if you're going to get into IT and you're going to get into cybersecurity, you need to start at networking. And I'm one of those people who's like, you really need to understand networking really well before you move into, really learning proper cybersecurity. But I also add in that you really should also learn the offensive measures as well. You need to know and understand what the attackers are using, how the systems that you have spent all this time learning how to set up correctly, how that even when you set them up correctly, they can be broken, they can be defeated. Somebody that's writing their first SQL front end is almost always going to screw up and not sanitize inputs. And if you've never performed or seen an SQL injection attack before, well, you don't know and understand the importance of why you need to sanitize your SQL inputs. So I think Kali Linux is a very good way for you to, dip your toe into Linux for the first time, if it's going to be your first time in Linux, but also in a bunch of tools ready to go. And you can just sit there, pull up a YouTube tutorial and learn at your own speed without having to pay for boot camps, training, other things.
Yeah, looks awesome. And they've certainly put some resources behind their landing page. It looks cool, makes me want to download Kali. I was clicking through some links while you were talking here. Of course, you could find, you don't have to install Kali if you want to install some of the packages it has, but it looks like, Kali's a good way to get everything all at once. I was interested in this car hacking thing. Have you read up on that at all, Lewis?
Now, Hunter, yeah, I actually set in on a not for the use of this tool specifically, but for this specific type of hacking at DEF CON last year.
Okay.
Set in on it, and it was a group of South Korean individuals. They had did some demonstrations of how they hacked through OBS on the cars to stop the engine, engage the brakes, do it while the vehicle was moving, all kinds of things. And this is the type of tool you would be using to attack the computer in a vehicle, causing it's same thing as industrial controls, mechatronics, microcontrollers.
Yeah,
it's all just there's a computer interface controlling physical things. Can we modify the computer to make the physical things do bad stuff?
Yeah, awesome. This looks super fun. I also have been to DEF CON. I didn't see that talk, but I am aware, they have like your car hacking village. I think they even had, I believe, boats run the same.
They had boats. Yeah, they usually have boats. I don't know if they had them this year, but this year they also had they had a combine on the show floor.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that looks pretty interesting if folks are kind of interested in the blend of hacking and cars, I think that sounds interesting. Read up on CAN buses and maybe check out this Net Hunter thing within Kali. Let's see what else. Andrew says, would you recommend Kali on a desktop or only mobile equipment like laptops?
Purpose, why you need it. If you're doing it to learn, throw it on any old desktop is fine. Throw it on. If you just, I need to get familiar with it, I want to start learning a little bit. When it's like, okay, no, you're going to start using it as a tool in your work, laptop. Or one of my side projects, a Cyberdeck that I'm building out.
Oh yeah, like a small hacking PC, is that right?
Yeah.
Or hacking computer? Cool. Send me some photos when you get it made. That sounds really awesome.
Yep, they're fun little projects. If you want to, and if you want to learn more, just not hacking, but computer microcontrollers, ARM-based boards, things like that. Cyberdecks are a great little project to get into because you come out of it with a fully functional computer that's all yours, and you get a little bit of the street cred for legitimately building a computer rather than just buying parts off of Newegg and slapping a desktop together.
Yeah, cool. And the if you just Google Cyberdeck, this one's like AI generated, but yeah, there's some pretty cool little setups. I think this is like maybe minimalist one, $6 keyboard, $25 Broken Pixel 4A. Oh man, look at this thing. Is that what you look like rolling into Starbucks, Lewis?
That's going to be closer to what I have because I'm going to put software-defined radio antenna arrays on it, a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
Planning to, if anybody's a Pineapple or a Wi-Fi auditing tools, build it out for that. Basically, build it into my goal is to build it into an assessment platform so that I can walk into the average small business and perform all of the assessment work that needs to be performed from a single point.
All right. I love it. I could scroll through this subreddit for forever. Some of these are like, man, how do you see that? It's so tiny.
Oh, there it is. You get little 2.4-inch OLED screens and it's impossible to read them, but
yeah.
No, like if you want to do a pirate box or war driving or SSID recording, you can just use little LCD displays and capture all this information.
Yeah, that's hardcore. All right, we dropped a link to Cyberdecks. Folks will check that out. Last link you sent me, Lewis, was about the FTC sending $25.5 million to victims of tech support scams. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this is just because I know everybody here has, faced this at some point, supporting an end user. I went to a website, pop-up popped up. I couldn't close it. My whole screen was, red with white text that said my computer's infected, call this number, stuff like that. So everybody's experienced that type of scam. The thing is that, FTC finally caught up with somebody that was doing this and slapped the fines on him, took him to court, got the penalties, and now they're redistributing that money back to people that were affected by this scam. And this is 100% the you have an issue on your computer, thank you for calling us, like we can help you with this, no problem, we'll run this PC cleaner and charge you $140 for it kind of deals.
And so
they got the $500 platinum service. Yeah.
Wow. And so the FTC actually, it sounds like from this article, took some action. It says banned the two companies. Oh, this is like kind of, I don't want to say legit companies, but maybe they're not.
They were basically enjoining them and saying, look, you can't operate as the business you have been operating as anymore. You can't do that no more. Stop.
Okay. So is this a case of like, they're not quite illegal? This isn't like an APT group. It's
no. This is just a computer scam.
Yeah.
Buying ads, buying, using regular malware, malvertisement methodologies to just get the pop-up in front of a unsuspecting end user. So they will call the phone number, get on the phone with the scammer. I mean, in all intents and purposes, it's kind of really what they are. that so that they can convince them of, oh, open up your we're going to open up your Windows event log. Oh, look at all those exclamation and bang marks and everything.
Sure.
All those problems you have on your computer. We need to fix that for you. We can do this as a one-time fix, or we can put you on a management program. And used Carsman sales spiel is what you kind of get drugged into.
Sure. And this is pretty big. FTC will send 736,000 PayPal payments starting March 13th to consumers tricked into paying for unnecessary computer repair services.
Yeah. So this is again, messaging. This is a little bit of feel-good messaging, but this is absolutely one of those. If you're not talking about it, someone else is talking about it to your clients. So awareness campaigns, collateral, prospect generation. This should absolutely be something to point to say, hey, these people do get caught, but look at the amount of money and damage that they did before they got caught. We need to defend against this. This is the kind of, this is the legitimate, and, people will say, well, that's just VEX residentials. That's just regular, the average, user on their home. And it's like, yeah, no, I had so many support tickets as an MSP where they would fall for these types of things.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Lewis, I have just maybe two more topics or so. So one, I was promoting this webinar, this security sync in Facebook, and I was kind of trolling a little bit. The issue is that I post YouTube links on Facebook, and Facebook does not like that. So nobody ever sees the post. So I said, hey, maybe I could put a QR code. That'd be kind of funny. Because you can just embed links in QR codes. My question to you is, let's say you have a QR code or a link that you're not quite sure about. What are some good tools or ways for folks to, introspect that link and make sure it's safe?
Yeah, so there's always the challenge of, it doesn't matter how a link gets to you, whether it's a QR code, a hyperlink, an obfuscated link through a URL shortener service, whatever it may be. You have to have the ability to inspect that final destination that it's going to take you to. Safe links inside of Outlook does it. You can use other services. Yet VirusTotal, OTX are good places to go pop those URLs into to check them, to see if they're associated with known threat campaigns and things like that. Some of your endpoint security tools will kind of have that kind of built into them, your content filters versus your DNS filtering solutions. But whenever it's specifically just I'm not going to click the QR, I'm not going to take my phone out and take a picture of the QR, use it for the link and everything. It's like, okay, yeah, that's legitimate, understandable. But in the end, you still have to have the ability, no matter how you get the link, to check it for safety.
All right. Right on. That sounds like pretty good advice. And Lewis, I am very petty. So shout out to Travis Lugo. I don't think he's on, but he said, I am a joker and I don't know much about security, which is maybe true, to be honest. Nobody's going to follow random QR codes. That's true. He has a good point there. But I take offense.
I follow random QR codes all the time because I'm curious where it heads.
You're a security guy.
but I'm probably going to be, visiting that link in a sandboxed VM that's not on the corporate network. It's in a little, in one of my little, lab enclaves.
Right on.
Yeah, no, you do not use your production equipment to go out there and visit, unknown links without best practices and doing what you should do to be safe.
Yeah, Jaleel says that's not true. Jaleel, what are you talking about? What's not true? Amos Feldman says, hey guys, what's up? One more topic we'll move on to. We'll see if Jaleel replies. Lewis, I'm curious about this vibe coding thing. What do you know about it, and what is it?
Okay, so this is one of those new kind of loosely, it's people just using AI and LLMs or something like Cursor, Claude, or whatever to do AI coding. But doing it in a I don't understand coding. And since I don't understand coding, I don't really know what this is doing. Therefore, I can't check it for security. I can't check it for best practices. I can't, check it for the obviously dumb things that the AI has given me, where it's like, yeah, sure, this is functional. It renders the web page. It gives you the drop down fields. It gives you the pretty graphs that you want. But okay, you got plain text and credentials embedded. There's API keys embedded. There's not even your API keys embedded. It's somebody else's API key that was exposed in the GitHub that somehow it managed to get hold of. And are you now sending your sensitive data, or the client that you're building this for, sensitive data, into somebody else's S3 bucket? So vibe coding is the whole, I'm going to go use an AI, make a thing, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, I can't troubleshoot it. I can't make it secure. I can't actually genuinely understand and engage with it and make improvements without the assistance of the AI coders.
Yeah, good summary. It's even got a Wikipedia article, my favorite site. I guess this guy, Andrej Karpathy, I think, who was perhaps at OpenAI, kind of coined this term vibe coding, about just going with the vibes. I'll offer a counterpoint. So I think I have some few links as well too. I have vibe coded. I think it's very fun. My hope is that nobody is using it in production for important systems and actually just hitting tab and like, all right, ship it to prod for things that could explode.
You would hope.
That's my hope, but I'm not certain. And we could go into some of the downsides. My hope is that people are doing this for just kind of fun little apps and maybe like getting into coding. But I posted a few of these in the Facebook group. One is Cursor fuck up my 4 months of work. Disclaimer, I'm a moron who worked on the same project without thinking about the risk that Cursor could break everything. Yesterday, Cursor destroyed months of development. My question, how do you back up your projects and versions to ensure that the next action on Cursor is reversible? Also, I know that while I'm concerned, Cursors and the old culprit, Claude does this too. And somebody says no version control for 4 months.
So it's the, you are giving a highly complicated piece of equipment to a toddler.
Yes.
With no appreciation for the damage, for the power, for the sheer, just break it down. Somebody that's never run a chainsaw before has no real appreciation for the torque that a chainsaw can generate and how it can literally just rip it out of your hands. I kind of think of this the same way. If you don't understand the tools, if you don't understand the power, if you don't know that it's a good idea to do backups of your work, that's one of those. Yeah, no, you were supposed to learn that
GitHub.com
high school to save your progress.
Yeah. I'll offer another counterpoint. Again, I hope people aren't actually using this for prod. My impression a little bit is like, I think it's good that people are using computers and starting to learn lessons that hurt in a bad way. So I definitely don't want to, I post these.
Oh yeah, no. It is a great fit. It is a great fast path.
Yeah.
And if you think of it as another learner, somebody else that is learning with you at the same time. Therefore, I know and understand you don't know everything, that you have the possibility to screw something up, but kind of teach it to somebody else that's learning with you. You can be you're more mentally inclined to interact with it in a safer way.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody made a good point that I kind of agree with. It Home Depot of like tech and coding. It's not necessarily for professionals. It could be in some cases, but it's mostly amateurish people, which is why we're seeing some of these, kind of funny posts, kind of egg on these people's faces. But I hope I think they'll learn. I think it's a good thing that more people are writing code and building things. This guy's
just expectations that it's good to learn. Don't push the production, and make sure that you're, like you said, nobody's, you hope nobody's pushing to production, but there is going to be a segment out there, just like there was with the initial AI slop that kind of get generated into music, into videos and YouTube and everything, social media posts. Somebody else will find a way to use vibe coding to make quick dollars that they don't have to support long term because they got the money and they go.
Yeah, you're totally right. And yeah, I'll just show this one really quickly and then the other. So this guy was building some code. He did push to production that said, "Guys, I'm under attack." And I don't know. It says maxed out usage on API keys. Perhaps he, creating random shit on database, bypassing subscription. Kind of the downside, but also good. Like these people are learning about these things in a painful way. On the other hand, they are like perhaps exposing user data, so not good. And then the other one, I have no idea if this one was real. It says, "I just started using Cursor. What does the white dot mean?" I hope this one's a troll and it's got maybe some password hashes exposed, something like that. One more thing I'll drop just on this topic of understanding your code, Lewis, is that I've been experimenting with vibe coding specifically for like fun little games. Here's what, let me get the right link. Here's what AI made for me. I tried to make a racing game without at all knowing this library. It's called 3JS. And this is the output I got. And so the lesson that I got is like, that's that same thing. Like I write software for a living. I've been paid for it, but I need to understand what this code is doing. And so I've actually started to go like RTFM and understand what's happening. And my hope is that, through actually understanding, I could use AI as a tool for maybe some boilerplate different things.
Oh yeah. No, I don't use it for not necessarily vibe coding, but I will definitely go in and be like, okay, I need to take this JSON response. I need to get it into an array. And then I need all of the rows from the array to be written to a set of ever-growing variables. Yes. And it's just like, yes, I could sit down in Python and PowerShell in Bash and spend the 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But yeah, no, it's just so, if you know enough about the whole project that you're working on and you can get to just the individual steps need to be part of it, that's where for me the real power is. It's not going in and asking it to build a whole project. It's going in just like you would do with an intern or a junior technician or engineer or developer. You wouldn't go to them for the whole project. You would go to them with a very well scoped small little component and ask them to build that, verify that it works, add it into the main project.
Yes, totally. Use it as a tool and understand what it's doing. Just a few more comments. Andrew says, "I made a fun NCAA 25 football play selector." That sounds interesting. You should drop a link if that is public and in prod. Heike said, "Better place for the links is mailing list," because Amos said, "We dropped a lot of links here." Amos, everything will be available in the replay. You can scroll through, but I will try to compile our links and pop them in the YouTube description or in our mailing list. Lewis, this has been a lot of fun, man. What else? Do we have anything else to cover?
Not for like any big giant security news. Just the general kind of be mindful, be aware. Things are when we were talking about APT groups earlier, motivations are changing, marching orders are changing. So now is not the time to let up. Now is the time to be more mindful and resilient in what you do, what you plan, and what you build with an eye towards operational security. We have the Empower event for Enable coming up in Berlin next month. So if anybody's going to be in the EU out in Berlin, we've got a nice, it's a great opportunity to go talk to other MSPs. If you are an MSP, it's very peer heavy, more peers having conversations with each other than it is Enable talking to you. Also, we got some training resources out there if you are interested in it. We're doing some certification training this month for our Insight and N-central and our Cove platform. So even if you're not an N-able partner, you can still go get in on those. And
Where can we find that? Is that the events page, Lewis?
That's on the events page. Yep.
All right. So that's enable.com/events. I've attended a few of these. You don't need to subscribe or be a customer. There's tons of stuff here. I think you've done a few. Our friend Stephanie has done some on marketing and different things.
Yeah. And there are a lot of good free open resources. We're very much about the, rising tide, all ships. We don't gatekeep a lot of this stuff. Some of it is product specific, but most of it though is the industry, the business of being an MSP, an IT consultant, IT professional. And then also you'll find me out on LinkedIn, out on Twitch here and there occasionally while I do some live coding.
Yeah. What's the Twitch?
It's the Security Pope. So I've changed that up now and kind of aligning all of the handles.
All right. I love it. I'm looking for, have you streamed yet?
No VODs.
Okay. Just getting started. All right.
Yeah.
I subscribed. I recommend people do too. We'll drop a link to that as well.
Thank you.
All right. Lewis, it has been a pleasure, sir. Really appreciate these events. Hope that IT professionals in our group are getting value from them. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, check that out too. This is an itsupportgroup.com. We'll do it again and have a great afternoon.
Pleasure.
All right. See ya.